I call the honourable member Todd McClay.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Thank you. It gives me a pleasure to rise and speak on the Crimes Amendment Bill number 2, a bill that we've had before a committee for some time and have spent a great length studying this in detail and hearing from the public. Can I start by congratulating my colleague Te Iriroa Flavel for his speech and for recognising that he and the Māori Party are supporting this piece of legislation. And I say to the opposition that I hope they will too. I did hear that they were through committee. You are all the way through? Members opposite? Well, that's good, and I thank them for that because I think it's important that our House works together wherever possible and whenever it can when it comes to issues of young people and children. In fact, I ask for the... No, I haven't lost anything yet. I ask the Green Party to rethink their issues. In fact, what they've said is they won't be voting for it because we need to address the wider issues. Well, Mr Speaker, there are no issues wider than children who are abused and killed in this country. And it's important that members of this House think about what's important to them, the bigger issues and so on. But fundamentally in New Zealand, far too many children are abused, far too many children are killed, and far too many family members and others sit by and watch it happen and don't do enough about it. Now, I recognise when we're in committee that in some cases these other people that sit around these children when they're harmed are themselves victims also. But you know what, Mr Speaker, that's not good enough for us in New Zealand. Every adult has to know that they have not only the ability, but that they must step in and seek help and assistance when a young child is to be harmed. Now, children are some of the most vulnerable people that we have in society. Too often adults around them in their own homes do nothing when they're being harmed by people that they know. Every year there are very many cases of children being abused and harmed and killed. In my electorate of Rotorua, there was a very high-profile case of a beautiful young girl, young Nia Glassy, who was killed. And there were many adults in that home that the courts have dealt with, but nobody stepped in and nobody did anything about that. We have another high-profile case, Mr Speaker, of the Kahui twins who were murdered. And there were many adults in that home, and nobody knows what happened. There's been a high-profile court case, but nobody stepped up to say, I know what happened, or this is the person responsible, or this is what we should do. Nobody's even said, I wish I had acted to stop that happening. Personally, I believe Chris Kahui killed those children. But actually, that's for others to consider now, Mr Speaker. What concerns me the most is that nobody stepped in and nobody's held to account there. In Ngaruawahia, earlier this year, a little baby of 6 months of age, Serena, was killed in her own home. There was 4 or 5 or 6 adults living there. They disappeared. Nobody knows what happened. Somebody from that community spoke up afterwards, a next-door neighbour who didn't want to be named in the media, and those around her abused her and threatened her because she thought it was important that somebody stood up for the life of that young baby. So, Mr Speaker, this bill won't fix all the ills. It won't stop people killing children in our country, sadly. But what it will do is send a message to family members and to other adults that when somebody is vulnerable, a child or another adult, that they have a duty to protect them, to step in and do something about it, to seek help when they think that that young person is in harm's way. And if they don't, then the bill before us, the law, will hold them to account. When we come to committee stage, I do want to canvass and speak about other parts of this legislation. But at this stage, Mr Speaker, I am proud to have played a role in the way that this legislation moved through committee, and I commend it to the House.
I call the honourable